Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. And welcome to SelfCare September, my friends. We are on day 3, and I am giving a day in advance, so you will be hooked up for day 4 in about 2 seconds. As always, don't worry if you're just starting. Don't worry if it isn't even September. Just know that you are worthy of self-care and that I'm giving hot tips for 30 days. Okay, so today was to free up time to actually go through your social media or your calendar or wherever it is that you record your obligations and actually let some of those go by canceling unnecessary plans. It's a brave thing to do. A lot of people just can't stand the idea of letting someone else down. But in Self-Care September, and knowing that you're choosing to care for yourself, you absolutely have permission to do that. Okay, for tomorrow, it is to forgive yourself when things go wrong. Forgive yourself when things go wrong. And remember that we all make mistakes. And things will go wrong. And what your perception is on whether it's actually your fault or not, because it says forgive yourself when things go wrong, you can't forgive yourself for something that wasn't your fault, right? But for so many of us who tend to be caretakers and things like that, it's just easier to blame ourselves, and we often do put blame on ourselves, even if it's something beyond our control. Right now, as a teacher and certainly doing distance teaching and working with technology, which is fallible, understatement of the year, especially when the whole planet is vying for the same, amount of bandwidth or whatever, there's a lot of things going wrong all day long. And I have that tendency to put myself down and say, oh my gosh, you're such a blowout. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that. And it's like, wait a minute, was that even something that was on me? Like, was that even my fault? It's a tendency that I have, So I really do love the gentle suggestion of forgiving myself when something goes wrong tomorrow, and to remember that everyone makes mistakes. And certainly that some of those mistakes are beyond my control. All right, my friends, that is Self-Care September. Again, if you're just joining us today on day 3, it was to free up time in your life by canceling some plans. And for tomorrow, day 4, it is to forgive yourself when things go wrong, because we all make mistakes. Okay, if you're sticking around for the talk is 5 effects on the brain from sugar. And I was going to give a talk, as you know, if you've been around at all, on the primal brain. But sadly, in going through the various articles that I found, none of them really met my needs and what my objective was in sharing that. But I did come upon the effects of sugar, meaning processed cane, white sugar on the brain. And I think this is a good one. There's only 5 quick things for the effects, and I think it's a worthy share. So it reads, too much of anything can be bad for your health, sugar included. And while most people are aware of sugar's negative effects on their waistline and heart, many do not know the effect on the brain, and that's like far less common knowledge. Although the brain does require a certain amount of sugar in order to function properly, this type is known as glucose and is found naturally in foods such as fruits and grains. Not the processed nightmare, right? The CNH sugar that we grew up with. And they made that so pretty. CNH, we all know that. Pure cane sugar from Hawaii, born in the sun. Do you remember that? Like, it just made it seem so glorious and beautiful and natural and good for us. Not so much. All right, so it's a process of adding sugar to processed foods and beverages that is of far more concern, as consuming excess amounts of it can have long-term effects that are negative, including these 5. So number 1, it causes cravings and addiction. Completely agree with that. Though, much like me claiming to be an alcoholic, I'm only an alcoholic when I drink, okay? I'm only a sugar addict when I have processed chemical-laden sugar in my body. When I don't, I'm not. And I've said that before. Instead, it's just habits or desires or familiar patterns that make me suddenly want that. But it's not a physical craving for me. If it is not in my body, I am good to go. When I falter, it's not good, and it takes time to get out, and that's really sad. But let's see what it says. Sugar addiction is real, and it's a growing concern for the vast majority of the world, and I'm so sorry for that, because seriously, for centuries and centuries, not only was sugar more expensive than gold. I mean, literally, people bargained sugar over gold, but many countries and parts of the world didn't even go for it, because they just had, their regular food, and it was all grown naturally, and they didn't even bother with this thing called sugar, okay, that people were losing their lives over producing around the world. It's just astounding. There's this book called The Sugar Blues, which is just amazing on the history of introducing sugar to the common world. Anyway, though, Huffington Post explains that when a person consumes sugar, the tongue's taste buds become activated and send signals to the brain, lighting up reward pathways and causing a surge of feel-good hormones like dopamine to be released. And if you've studied this at all, you know that it's so sad that even when they give rats sugar and cocaine, two parts of the cage, go for sugar, go for cocaine, over time, they will go for sugar because it's even more of a dopamine rush over time. It's so sad. And of course, the nightmare of people using MRI machines to measure children's brain response and then enhancing the food with even more chemicals. I'm so sorry. So the source says that stimulating these reward pathways with sugary treats is okay from time to time. And that might be if you're a normie. For me, any is too much, but from time to time. But overactivating them can lead to a more serious concern, such as loss of control, guilty as charged, craving, and increased tolerance to sugar. I mean, that's so interesting to me when people say, "Ooh, that's so sweet. How can you stand it?" as I'm pouring a bag of C&H into my mouth. I mean, seriously. Oh, really? It doesn't seem that sweet to me, right? Because the tolerance obviously gets off kilter, if you will. All right, next one. Bear with me. It's my life right now to have technical difficulties. Okay, number 2. Sadly, this is so sad. It impairs memory and learning skills. And as you know, or may not know, but you'll know now, 76% of all products in a store. And remember, stores average 80,000 products. About 80,000 products in a common grocery store. And 76% of those are enhanced with sugar. It's so sad. So according to Forbes, people who consume too much, excuse me one sec. Wow. I'm being hijacked. You know when they just keep popping things up every single second? Like, really? Come on. All right, I'm going to breathe. Here's what I'm struggling with. I'm glad you asked. Juliana, what's the deal? How come you seem like you're struggling? Well, it's late as usual, and I'm trying to use this tripod, which technically has a Bluetooth, but sadly my Bluetooth isn't recognized by the phone, so it wobbles every time I try and touch it or do anything. Then the center of my phone is right here, but the camera is over here, and I'm trying to find a way to be looking at you. And then, because of the tripod and how fat it is, which I'm not used to either, I can't see the whole article, and the article is below me, and I'm trying to keep eye contact with you and only glance down occasionally, and the bar is in the way. Yes, that is what I'm struggling with, and I'm happy to laugh about it because I want to find balance, but I'm not there yet. Power of yet, my friends. Anyway, so it impairs memory, and I'm sorry for children because, as you know, they are subjected to sugar from the morning they wake up to the morning they go to bed, and I know that's not true for everybody, but it has to be very intentional for it not to be true. All right, so according to Forbes, people who consume too much added sugar produce less of the chemical, and this is so important right here because they're going to reference it, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, something naturally produced in your brain. And that's for short BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. As BDNF assists the brain with learning and the formation of new memories. See, that's the part with children. Are you kidding me? The formation of new memories. It just kills me to think that that's compromised because of processed sugar. Without a sufficient amount of it, the source says, we can't learn or remember much of anything. So sugar actually kills the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, or seriously reduces the brain's ability to produce it. And it literally cuts back on memory, the ability to memorize anything. You know, as a child, I certainly clearly by second grade, if not third, I mean, it was common to be in competitions where we would literally memorize pages and pages of scripts, of poems, like, you know, classic poetry, speeches, like all the time. Now, even my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are allowed to keep the paper in front of them because how in the world could they possibly memorize a whole speech? What? It's so sad. We don't even expect that of our children anymore. But now physically, would they be able? Not as able as we certainly were in the 80s. Wait. In the 80s, when I was a child, hey, I was an 80s child, but okay, high school, but still, I was still a child. Okay, number 3, it contributes to depression. I mean, my gosh, from a girl who majored in depression, and granted, a lot of that was just chemical imbalance that I essentially inherited. I didn't really understand that my addiction to sugar was greatly exacerbating my depression. And that kind of is in line with how I didn't understand that my asthma, which I knew was affected by environmental factors, was greatly enhanced by the poison that I was putting in my body daily. So it can contribute to depression. People always think, oh, have some sugar, you'll feel so much better. And no. I mean, like alcohol, again, a depressant, which for the fun of it seemed so great at the time. I was doing all those things. My gosh, no wonder I was such a wreck. And I love that I'm saying was. Praise God, this is past tense. So it says consuming too much added sugar can have a major impact on your mood and mental health. One example is this is a sugar crash, where the body's blood sugar spikes upon consumption of a sugar-rich snack or beverage, and then plummets soon after, leaving you feeling anxious, moody, or depressed. I so get that. You know, sometimes people are like, well, how are you going to feel after that meal, right? And inevitably bummed that I consumed it, depressed that I went for that, sad that I sabotaged myself, like all of that. That was true for a long time. Now it's way worse. Like somehow it's anger. It is anger, crankiness, short-tempered, which is so rare. Those things are so rare for me, but I'm not kidding you. And I haven't felt it that much, but recently when I did, people were just like, who is this? It was Jekyll and Hyde. I was so, I'll just say, just short-tempered and angry. It was crazy. And I just thought, oh my gosh, is this just from the sugar that I ate? Are you kidding? It was bad. I don't want to go back and try and repeat it so I can better understand it. Let's just say I know not to do it. I got ugly fast. Okay. Number 4, linked to Alzheimer's dementia. So as mentioned earlier, overconsumption of added sugar causes the body to produce less BDNF, which among other things helps with memory formation. So it's probably not surprising to learn that it's linked to dementia and related conditions. In fact, Forbes says it's possible that low BDNF may turn out to be the smoking gun in these and other diseases, which is why I'm so grateful at this half part of my life that I've gotten off of processed sugar, alcohol, like all the things, because I need just chronically improved energy and memory for the next 50 years, right? So like Alzheimer's, although more research about this connection is still being conducted, the source says that what seems clear in many cases is that a reduced level of BDNF is bad news for our brains, and chronic sugar consumption is one of the worst inhibitory culprits. One of the worst inhibitory culprits. Terrible, so terrible. All right, number 5. Thanks for bearing with me and my tripod circumstance. Inhibits overeating sensor from working. So we actually have an overeating sensor, and sadly, sugar inhibits it, which I so get. I mean, just like how no meat even has fiber, right? All these empty calories, all the processed nonsense and chemicals, in no way can your body even decipher what it is you've consumed. So it certainly has no idea when it's reached its limit. So, and I get this, I'm not kidding. I wasn't exaggerating when I said I used to consume sugar, just sugar-laden packaged stuff for 3 weeks at a time, up to 3 weeks at a time, with no recognizable and certainly not grown or plant-based food for easily 3 weeks at a time. And that is no exaggeration. So it says it's common knowledge that overconsumption of sugar can lead to weight gain and in severe cases, obesity. Severe cases, I would say common cases. Oh my gosh. Like most people now are considered obese. They're not grossly obese yet, but even that is more people are obese than not, like on the actual medical paperwork scale. But researchers are now coming to understand exactly why. According to Forbes, recent discoveries show that chronic consumption numbs. That's weird. It doesn't even say of sugar. That's interesting. Chronic consumption numbs the brain's anorexigenic oxytocin system. Anorexigenic oxytocin system. The sensor that prevents overeating. Wow. I so get that. I mean, I told you guys, and you probably thought I was exaggerating. I wasn't. Where I literally would go from one movie theater to another, and I would disguise myself. I'd pull my hair back in a ponytail. I'd put my hoodie on. I'd, put my jacket around my waist, then put my jacket on. All the things so that I could hide in a theater for 4 movies in a row, which is like 8 hours. And then when it was switching to the evening, I would drive to a different theater and I would stay there for 6 more hours until it closed at like 2 in the morning, all the while consuming all the things, just eating and eating and eating. I mean, it would be $100 day easily, right? Just movie hopping and binging my full head off and still having a sense of absolute emptiness. And it wasn't just we could go to the whole psychological where you were emotionally empty. No. Yes, maybe initially. That's why I even dared to want to, binge and punish my body in some way. But I just mean literally, if you have ever consumed 6,000 calories and been hungry a half hour later, that's me. If you've had 12,000 calories in a day and at the end of the day asked yourself, did I eat today? Not even kidding you, okay? Not even kidding you. Like, I so know this, people. I so know it. And this is why. So it says, and with this crucial sensor disabled, completely disabled, on an almost permanent basis in some individuals, our brain doesn't release hormones to signal that we're full, resulting in excessive overeating, thus perpetuating the problem even further. Absolutely. So get that. I so get that. I mean, I appreciate that there's a medical reason for it, but it has to be very intentional to stop that cycle. Super intentional. And it's scary. Change can be scary. Let me see if this is the same article or not. Sweet alternatives to refined sugar. Yeah, no, I'm done. I'm not going to keep going. I think it's another article. Anyway, though, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I just so get it. And when I couldn't find my primal brain, and that primal brain is that little kid who fit throws all the time. But they were calling it the lizard brain and just like all this stuff. It wasn't what I wanted. And then I saw sugar on the brain and I was like, yeah, that is a reminder that I need all the time. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Thanks for your patience regarding my little meltdown with the whole tripod and all of this. But I'm happy to be here. Thanks for checking in. As always, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I may support you. And until we talk again, my friends, stay away from refined sugar. And best of all, know that you're blessed.